Another thing we can do with CSS is adjust what the text looks like. There are several properties that deal with font and text, and we're going to learn some of the most common ones. So one of the common properties is the font family, and here we get to choose what type of font, or what the characters themselves will look like. And when we do this, if you look down here at the bottom, the property is font family, and notice that it uses, for the value, it's a series of values. This is called a font stack. And what happens is, as we list the fonts that we want to use, the browser will actually access the user's computer to find that font. So each individual computer has a place where they store the fonts that are available on that local computer. And if that font is there, then the browser will use it. And so we build the font stack. We start with our preference. In this case, we put Trebuchet MS. That's our preference for the font. But if that's not available on the user's computer, notice that this is Who Knows Computer is using this website, and we have no idea if that font's available on their computer or not. And so the browser looks to see if it's not available, then it will go to the next one. And if it finds that, fine. If it doesn't, it'll go to the last one. And the last one that we put is called a generic font. And a generic font is it's just a general name, and each browser will have their own version of that generic font. So the fonts will look a little bit different from one browser to another, but that generic one at least lets us choose which version we want. There are 5 generic fonts that we can use. Serif has a little piece of ornament on the end of the characters. Sans serif has no ornaments at all. Monospace has it so that every single letter takes up the same space, so an I would take up the same amount of space as an M. Cursive is more like handwriting, where it has curvy letters. This one to be used pretty cautiously, as well as Fantasy, maybe even more, that's highly ornamental. So right now, the recommendation is that sans serif is used for both headlines and body text. Monospace is often used for code, right? It distinguishes it as different and can be used to show code. But you want to pick one of those generic fonts to be the last one. And again, they will show up different based on each browser, because each browser does their own version of those. Let's go ahead and add a font family to our website. So we're going to do this in TSS styles, and we're going to do it in the body. Now we already have a style block for body, so we'll just add this style rule right here. And the property is font family, font hyphen family. And the value that we're going to use is veranda. Now notice that none of these are going to be in quotes. If we go back here, this first one that is in this slide has quotes, and that's because there's a space in the name. So whenever there's a space in the family, in the font family name, you need to use quotes. If there's not a space in it, you do not need quotes. So in this case, we will not need any quotes because they're all single words. Geneva. And then the generic one we're going to use is sans serif, and that has a hyphen in it. Okay, so we're going to save that. Let's go see what difference that makes to our website. So remember, we're watching the font, and this is inherited. So even though we're doing it on the body, it'll also happen on the paragraphs and the lists. Let's go ahead and refresh. And there we see a new font. Now it happened on this page, which is the cycling page, but if we look at each individual page, it will happen on every one because all of them have linked to that style sheet. So there we've changed the font family that will be used on our website.